The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
I try to do things the right way. I try to race the way I want to be raced. And sometimes I clearly get taken advantage of because of that. But at the end of the day, I know that, when I beat a guy, it's because I outdrove him. It's not because I took a cheap shot and ran into him. That's my way of thinking. Some people disagree with it. Some people think it's perfectly fine to knock somebody out of the way to get a win. In my opinion, it's not. So we all have opinions. We all think differently about different things. It's just not the way I've ever done it. Whether it's go-karts when I was a kid or racing modifieds, it doesn't matter what it was. This is the way I was taught to race. You race fair, you race clean, you race as hard as you can, and try to beat the guy straight up. I can say that every single win I've ever had, I earned it.
Oh, that wasn't the way that was supposed to happen. Welcome to episode 85 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Friday, November 2nd, 2018. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I'm joined by my co-host, James Cush. James, I'm all riled up from that intro. Obviously messing things up here, so...
Yeah, I mean, that was a hard fade, I guess, is what you could call that. That was good.
I hit the wrong button, but I'm not redoing it, so we're just going with it.
That's how we've been screwing up the intro every so often, and I think it makes for a better podcast, so that's fine.
I agree.
Yeah.
We don't want to give anybody like this false sense that we're real professional here or anything, so make sure they know what they're getting into right off the bat if they're just tuning in for the first time.
For sure.
So it's Friday, for one, so we're late because life got in the way. And but yeah, we still want to talk about Martinsville, right, James?
Yeah, we got to. I started to calm down about Martinsville, and then Martin Truex Jr. did an interview with Bob Pockrass yesterday, and I got all fired up again. So I'm ready.
The clip from the intro was during a press conference, I think today here at Texas Motor Speedway. But let's start first with how we never start for these things when there's a controversial thing or whatever. Let's start by saying Joey Logano gets the win this week or last week at Martinsville. The first day to 500, earns himself a spot in the Final Four. He will get to race for a championship at Homestead. 3 more spots to be determined, but the story of the weekend, of course, was the Martin Truex Jr. Joey Logano battle at the end of the race. So let's talk about it, James. I know you and I are going to agree on it because we've already talked about it before we went on the air, but was Joey out of line, roughing Truex up, and I guess what's your take on that whole deal?
Well, are we driving open wheel cars now and right. Being a bunch of sissies? Then no.
All right.
Yeah, we drive full body stock cars in our sport, man. So no, that was good. He was clear.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Okay, so Truex claims he would never race that way. Well, I'm sorry. That's Truex's problem.
Yep. I
like the fact that Joey pretty much came out and said after the race that, yeah, he roughed him up. He's going for the championship. And I mean, I listened to Dave Moody talk about it, and, Dave was right. Not only if Joey doesn't do that, the team's mad at him, the sponsor's mad at him. There's so many things that can spiral because of that. Joey's got to do what he's got to do to win the championship. He wasn't necessarily in a place where he could point his way in.
He didn't wreck the guy,
No, he just bumped him out of the way. And let's put it this way. Here's the thing. Joey did exactly what Denny Hamlin didn't do last year. He did it right. He waited to the last turn, and he didn't wreck the guy. If you go look at the replay from Denny Hamlin hitting Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin was wrong last year. He hit him in the side. He spun him out. Joey just pushed him up the track. And then they did their shenanigans coming off of turn 4, but that was fair game, man, for Martinsville especially.
Yeah. No, it was totally clean. I mean, he don't get any better than that.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, if it's like Martin is playing football, but he doesn't want to be tackled.
Right.
And I don't get why he's on. And what really ticked me off later this week, I'm actually glad we're recording on a Friday instead of our normal Tuesday, because what really ticked me off yesterday was now he's on this holier than thou press tour where I don't do it this way and I'm never going to do it that way. I'm going to race clean. And I mean, man, you're in NASCAR stock car racing. Everybody who's ever been good at it has used the chrome horn from time to time.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's so wrong about it. And fans who are mad at Joey Logano, get out of here.
Right.
Get out of here. I don't want to hear any of that stuff. You can be mad at him because you don't like him, but don't be mad at him for what he did.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I mean, it could have been way worse. He could have wrecked Truex sooner. He could have wrecked Truex. I mean,
yeah.
he didn't wreck him. Even coming off of 4, it was still, they were rubbing, but that was clean.
Yep.
That's racing, man. Rubbing is racing. Exactly.
Yeah, and under Martin, according to Martin Truex Jr., we would never have the Ricky Craven, Kurt Busch finish at Darlington,
Right.
or the famous Jeff Gordon, Rusty Wallace bump and runs in Bristol. I mean, that's not allowed apparently
Exactly.
in our sport. So yeah, I'm pretty ticked off at Truex, if you can't tell.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm whoever is going to be sponsoring Martin Truex Jr. next year, I'm pretty ticked off at him. I mean,
you're not going to do what it takes.
yeah, exactly. You got a chance to win that race. Truex could have clean, I mean,
Yep.
I'm sorry that, first of all, if he had any thought that wasn't going to happen, then come on. I mean,
well, they knew it was going to happen. It was on his radio. If you
Right.
listen to Radioactive, I mean, the spotter's telling him, it's coming.
yeah,
And if
it was the cleanest possible way that Joey Logano could have hit him.
and and another thing too, it's not smart racing on Truex's part.
No,
Honestly, I mean, he could have, if he would have run Joey up the track a little bit, he would have been clear and set sail. He would have
Right.
won that race no problem. And he could have raced Joey just as clean by giving him the bumper.
yep,
I know he raced Joey clean. He didn't get into him. He did get into him just a tick. But he did race him clean, and that's fine. But it's not like Joey did the Denny Hamlin last year. I mean, that's a whole different story.
right. And you got Joey Logano. This is a guy who's been pushed around his entire career in the Cup Series, and
Yep.
he's willing to throw down and do what he needs to be done to win the race, and he did
He's
it.
got his sights set on that championship, and he's hungry.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have one. He
Yep.
doesn't have that championship, and he's let a couple of opportunities get away from him. His year this year has been good, not great. He had the one win at Talladega, so I mean, he was a shark smelling blood in the water,
Yeah.
and he went for it. And that whole last sequence was just phenomenal between Keselowski was up there, and him and Joey. That was kind of a weird battle too. It's hard to say ifs and buts, but if Keselowski was in the chase or in the playoffs still, maybe he's in victory lane. I
Right.
don't know, but
Well,
that whole sequence was just fantastic.
let's talk about that. First of all, I mean, the majority of the race, it wasn't a bad race, but it wasn't a Martinsville, bump and crash and spin and constant cautions and lots of people mad at each other type of race. But I will be so bold to say that the last 10 laps of that race were the best you can ask for in NASCAR.
Yeah, it was intense.
I personally think that those, and I'm not saying this, let me clarify. Well, let me say it first. Those 10 laps were the best 10 laps in NASCAR history. Now, I'm not saying they're better than other moments in NASCAR history, but they are right there. You had everything you could possibly ask for. You had passing, you had rubbing, you had side-by-side racing, you had the bump and run at the end, you had a side-by-side race to the finish.
Yep.
Everything you could ask for in NASCAR was right there in that last 10 laps of that race.
Yep, that's as good as it gets.
Yep.
Right
you
there.
cannot ask for anything more than that. I mean, seriously, maybe a caution in the middle of it, but that would have ruined it. That wouldn't have made it better.
Yeah, and if you're Roger Penske and that whole organization, you have a sigh of relief a little bit too,
Right.
because of, I guess, the ethics of Brad Keselowski. He didn't back off. I don't want to sound like he just gave the win to Joey Logano, but he raced him differently than I think he would have otherwise.
Right.
But that led to what we saw at the end, which was just absolutely fantastic. That whole sequence was just fantastic.
The other thing that's neat about it is it was another one of those organic finishes. We didn't have it because of a green white checker or a late race caution. It just happened that way. It just worked out that way. Just like Chicago was earlier this year. Chicago was the same thing, that you didn't have a green white checker that manufactured this finish. This was organic. Again, you could not ask for anything better than this.
Yep, and NASCAR's got to be thinking, man, more short tracks, because I mean, this is what every time we go to Martinsville, we get a really good show. Even if it's a bland Martinsville is way better than 80% of the schedule.
Exactly. And when you're watching on TV too, you're only seeing a fraction of it. I've not been to Martinsville personally, but I've talked to plenty of people who have, and it's on my list to get to sooner than later. But there's action all the way around that track. There's no way there can't be. It's so small and so tight. You have to be bumping and rubbing and sliding, to make moves. So
yes, for sure.
So I don't know. Is there really much else to talk about with Martinsville?
Well, I think I think recording on today. I think we covered everything we would have covered anyway. But Martinsville's been covered and picked at. But I think we said what we needed to say. I feel better.
Yeah.
What's funny about the podcast now is
it's your therapy.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit of fan therapy, because if I get mad about something, I really enjoy coming on the podcast just to be like, I gotta air it out,
That's funny. We need to just add a James rant section to the podcast.
Well,
every week.
Exactly.
The whole thing is a James rant, but
I feel bad for you too, because you were on the receiving end of some of my texts this week, and I was texting fast and furious.
It's all good, man. I love seeing you riled up. That's one of my favorite things. So.
There we go.
Let's talk points a little bit real quick. Obviously, we're going into Texas this weekend. We're recording this just a couple days before the race, but point standings, Joey Logano's locked into the Final Four. You got Kyle Busch, 45 ahead in second in points.
Yep.
Martin Truex Jr., 25. Kevin Harvick, 25. Your 4 out are Kurt Busch at minus 25. Chase Elliott at minus 31. Clint Boyer, minus 42. Eric Almirola, minus 50. I think it's probably pretty safe to say Kyle Busch probably going to move on.
Well, he's got basically a race, not quite a full race ahead, but he's got a nice cushion. And I like,
of course,
where
Texas is the track that Kyle likes to implode at.
Yeah, that's true. He does have a documented history there.
This is the flip the bird to the NASCAR officials.
Yeah,
this is
wrecking Hornaday.
Wrecking Hornaday. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I feel comfortable with where Kevin Harvick is. That's 25 points is a nice cushion, but he's also going to bring some pretty good pieces to Texas and Phoenix. So,
but if two of those guys and those other 4 get a win,
I know that's the thing, and that's why I think I'm a little more comfortable with Harvick over Truex.
Yeah.
I think Harvick is going to outspeed Truex.
I stand by my statement. Truex ain't going to win again this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And he should have 2 wins in this playoff, and both of them, both of them he's had contact.
And and I did want to mention that too. Like, we're giving Truex a hard time. Truex is mad. Truex is mad partially too, because this is the second race in 3 weeks where he's been leading going into the last turn.
Yeah.
And not won the race. So,
Yep.
I mean, he's got a right to be frustrated, but, just race like everybody.
Well, and then
else,
he says, when he says things like Joey's not winning the championship, and you and I, and probably every NASCAR fan know.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. said it on his podcast. He's not going to do nothing.
Martin's not going to wreck anybody. What is he talking about? He's got this code now. He's not wrecking nobody.
Junior's quote was he talks like Dale Earnhardt. He drives like Mark Martin.
There, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
That is good. That is good. I didn't hear that. That's pretty fun.
So, I mean, so we're pretty safe to say we think Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick are getting in, right?
I like them too, yeah.
Do you think Truex is going to pull it off, or you think one of those other 4 is going to get in?
Well, now that Logano has won already, I think Chase Elliott's probably the most dangerous out of the rest of the group.
I think any of those guys has to win, though. If they don't win, they're not getting in.
They got to win. And I think, you and I talked about this last week. We said, why not Joey?
Right.
And I think you and I kind of left that podcast last week thinking, well, I think we both think Joey Logano's getting in.
Yeah.
So at this point, the 4 that we thought could probably move on better than anybody are there, minus, maybe Truex instead of, Chase Elliott instead of Truex. I think Chase is going to be a problem in Texas, possibly. He could do, and he's good at Phoenix too.
Phoenix
real good
almost got him in last year.
Yeah, and he's not as good as Kevin Harvick at Phoenix, but
True.
Nobody's as good as Kevin Harvick at Phoenix.
Right.
So I like where Chase Elliott is. 31 points back is not that big of a deal. At this point, he's got 2 races to go. I would be worried though that Kyle Busch is not going to have to win a race. He's probably sitting pretty. So it's going to get interesting after Texas. It's early to say. Joey Logano really kind of threw a wrench into everything a little bit. But we didn't think the big 3 were going to win Martinsville anyway, other than possibly Kyle Busch. So I think we're about where we thought we'd be right now.
I think Kurt Busch is the only one left that could points his way in out of the outside four. And
Yeah.
I think he could only do it if he wasn't Kurt Busch.
He's a weird. Yeah. Well, and I was just gonna say too, they're in a weird team situation too because everybody knows he's leaving. So that's a weird spot to be in. He's the only lame duck. Well, I guess you could say him and Truex are kind of two lame ducks in this.
Yeah.
In this little situation here. So we'll see if either of them can sneak their way in.
There you go. All right, let's talk a little bit about the news for the week. James, I had to start with the biggest news item of the week. This is the top news item. This is spectacular. I'll tell you what. So Texas Motor Speedway this weekend, and those of you who might be there right now because the trucks are racing tonight, have been introduced to Hog Heaven's Taternator, James. Check this sucker out. So this is, let me find it here, a Texas-sized smoked potato. It is overstuffed with a robust 1.5-pound mix of barbecue, pulled pork, brisket, and hickory black pepper sausage. And then it is, let's find the rest of it here, covered with a creamy and spicy bacon jalapeno mac and cheese with creamy bacon gravy topped off with a helping of onion crisps. Don't you just feel sick to your stomach just thinking about it?
What are we doing? What are we doing?
It could only be in Texas, and it could only be NASCAR, man.
I don't think I could eat 2 bites of that without getting sick.
I don't like half of what's on that, but
I could probably get by with 1 bite, but I would instantly feel terrible.
it's only $12, and
God.
I'm thinking it comes with a side of Tums for sure.
You got to have the Tums, yeah. See, if you're gonna put one of those bad boys down, first of all, if anybody does put a full one of those down, I want to hear about it.
Yeah,
I want to know that story. Like that sounds like trying to finish a marathon or something. It
Right.
just seems insurmountable.
yeah. I would have a better chance of finishing this than a marathon, though. I know
Oh,
that's not your case, but that's my case for sure.
I mean, it's. I'm looking at a picture of this thing and it just looks daunting. It's just daunting.
Yeah.
Haternator. Wow.
Yeah. Like I said, $12. That's pretty cheap for the racetrack for what this thing offers. I mean, you could get this sucker and piece it out to like 3 or 4 of your friends. And
Yeah, you could feed the whole family.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I have heartburn right now just thinking about it.
That's so gross.
All right, let's talk about real news then. Gateway Internet or Gateway, I don't know what the heck the name of the track is. Gateway. We'll just say Gateway.
Gateway Motorsports Park.
There you go. The president of Gateway said that he is interested in a NASCAR race and also, or in a Cup race, and he'd be interested in a midweek race.
I like that.
30,000 it says they drew to their IndyCar race earlier this year. Lots to talk about schedule changes. We're going to talk about it here in a second. So,
Are they still running the Truck Series there?
Truck Series is still racing there. The Truck Series has been back for the last couple years, I believe.
An Xfinity Series, they don't race there anymore, though, do they?
I don't remember.
No,
I don't think so. I think it's just the trucks.
Yeah,
right
just the trucks right now. Okay.
So, but it's a cool track, and it'd be neat to see some Cup cars out there. It'd be an interesting spot right in the middle of the country, basically.
Yeah, well, that's an area we don't really go near.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, it's kind of out there on its own. It's a neat racetrack. It's a flat. What is it? Mile. It's not a mile and a half.
It's a little over a mile, I think, or right around a mile.
Yeah, it's a flat mile.
1.25 mile circuit. It's just outside of St. Louis.
Yeah, that's a kind of a cool track. So it looks like Homestead, but it's not banked. So
yeah, it's a lot. It's actually kind of like a cross between Homestead and Martinsville.
Hey, yeah.
And Darlington.
Yeah,
because
there you go.
the shape is more like Darlington, and that one end it has a wider apex than the other. Turn 1 and 2 is really tight, but there's no banking or very little banking, and it's kind of stretched out like Martinsville. So
I think it's almost the perfect size facility for a NASCAR Cup Series race now.
it'd be pretty good, and they just put a ton of money into that place and a ton of work into that place to get NASCAR back there. So
And we don't need tracks to have 80,000. Shoot, we don't even need 50,000 seats. I don't even think we need 50,000 seats anymore at these facilities.
Yeah.
30,000 is probably a good number.
yeah,
That's a football stadium, you know?
Yeah, exactly, and just charge a premium for the tickets, and that'll suck for the fans, the casual fans that want to get out there and get a $20 ticket. But there's tracks that are available for that.
Yeah, I like Gateway. I think that'd be, and it's one of the great NASCAR finishes of all time. Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski. Oh my God.
One of the times Carl Edwards tried to kill Brad Keselowski.
Yeah, that was one of the
Oh, jeez.
Maybe it wasn't the great finish, but it was an interesting.
It was pretty rough.
Yeah, I'm all for it, man. I'd love to see Gateway on the schedule. Why not?
I agree. Speaking of Gateway, James, you and I talked about this earlier in the week through text, but Dave Moody was talking on his show. I always talk about Dave's. All right, just happens to be on when I'm in the car, basically.
That's okay. I've been listening to him this week too.
Good deal. And so he's talking on the show, and he made a comment that they were talking about the schedule, and he made a comment that the schedule is going to look a lot different in 2020, which we've already known that there's a lot of talk, but you and I both have kind of speculated that maybe the changes aren't going to be as big as everybody thinks they're going to be because of contracts and whatnot, and just all the inner workings and gears that have to move. And then maybe some of the big changes that we could expect to see in the lower series more so than the Cup Series. But he seems pretty certain that it's going to look a lot different. He said that NASCAR's listening, that there's going to be more short tracks, or they're looking at more short tracks, and the emphasis on 1.5 mile tracks will be no longer.
Good.
So my question is this: does Dave know what he's talking about, first of all? And how does NASCAR get this done?
Well, if anybody's tapped in, it's somebody like Dave.
That's my thought.
And if this was coming from Pockrass, I think that's a little different.
Right.
But still, Dave's tapped in. He's at the track, almost every weekend of the season.
Right.
And yeah, I think this could happen.
So,
I think.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the fans have been screaming forever that we want changes, right?
Right.
And I think NASCAR finally did something with the Roval, and it was like a big light bulb for them. Like, oh, wait a second, ticket sales are up,
right?
Ratings are up. Maybe there is something to this schedule change, getting intrigue into different tracks around the country.
So how is it? How do they pull this off? Because, do we do more Rovals? Is that how we do this? There's only so many short tracks you can add without building a new short track.
Right.
You and I talked, you could ORP, maybe you'd have to put a ton of money into that place, but they've got the safer barrier. You'd have to put more seats back in there, which they took a ton out after NASCAR left to begin with. You've got Iowa that needs some seats and is probably pretty close to ready to go. You got Gateway that's willing to put the money in to go. You got Nashville.
Milwaukee Mile, maybe,
but Milwaukee Mile's struggling just in general, aren't they?
Sure, yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that could happen. You've got, Nashville obviously is looking really good, like it might happen.
Yeah, Nashville will be on some sort of Cup Series circuit within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
no doubt.
So, and then you can look at, okay, so there's other road courses we could go to. There's the ones that we run in the Xfinity Series on.
There's Road America and.
Yeah, you've got the Circuit of Americas in Austin, but there's been a lot of talk that Texas Motor Speedway is never going to let that happen because they're too close. And so, how do they get this done? Is it? I don't know, man.
You got to eliminate second dates somewhere.
I agree.
So your Texas's and that's hard too because Las Vegas just added a second date.
Yep.
So you gotta lose a Kansas, probably a Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Tracks like that are gonna have to sacrifice dates, or they could try the Charlotte model, but how many Rovals is NASCAR willing to have?
We can't have 6 Rovals in the series.
No, but if we have 2 Rovals, maybe that's a Texas option. Yeah. Texas says, "Well, don't go to Circuit of the Americas. Let's do a Texas Roval."
I think. Well, I don't know. I was going to say one of the places I'd like to see, a road course look at is Pocono.
Yep.
But I really like the fact that Pocono, and we talked about this when we ran Pocono, that it may not be the best race of the season, but it's also unique. It's such a unique track that I almost hate to see them do something like that. So I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, tracks like Phoenix, we like Phoenix. It's different. They just did a huge remodel and a huge they flipped the track basically to move the start finish line. So we'll see how that goes in a couple weeks, but yeah, the venues I think the thing NASCAR realizes now too is the venues don't need to be big. They really don't. Like, you can pack seats into these places and you don't need 100,000 anymore.
Right.
So,
do you think that NASCAR thinks deep down though that they're going to be able to pull big numbers again? Because that would be the only thing I could think that would limit them. Is they're like, okay, well, we're not as big right now, but could we go back? I don't think they're going to go back to mid 2000s numbers. But do the big higher ups there think they're going to be able to, and so they're scared to go to a small venue where they can't expand like that?
I think the TV partners probably would have to have a say in that too. You're going to have, like NBC right now. They've had great races.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's been trending down except the Roval.
Right.
Well, NBC looks at it and says, "Hey, we want to continue our investment in NASCAR. You guys got to do more of this, this, and this." I think that is where the dollar amount's going to speak. Not so much what the fans are willing to spend, but how much the fans are willing to tune in for the advertisers.
Right.
I think that's the model NASCAR is probably paying the most attention to.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay. Couple more things. This is kind of old news now because it was announced before the weekend, but get a little chance to talk about it. Ally Financial announces that it will sponsor Jimmy Johnson for the next 2 years as the whole season primary sponsor. They were formerly GMAC, which was a Hendrick sponsor back in the day. Has not been a part of the sport, but now is back. And I mean, Jimmy Johnson's got a sponsor. So
yeah, I thought this was the biggest news of the week.
Yeah,
honestly,
it's pretty big.
Because we've been talking about it for a long time, and it's so late in the season, but they finally got Jimmy Johnson a sponsor. But not just
only
that,
yeah.
yeah, a full season, two full season commitments which is huge for Jimmy.
I guess I said Ally was out of the sport. I don't know that they were actually out of the sport. I don't know how much of a role they played, if any. But to get them back as a primary sponsor is a pretty big deal too. And not only that, but on the 7-time champs car, I'm assuming they're probably spending a little more money than they did when Brian Vickers was driving the 25 car.
Brian Vickers, Ricky. Well, there was a lot of GMAC cars back in the day. Ricky Hendrick drove for GMAC and Jack Sprague too.
Yep.
In the truck series. So, yeah, it's kind of cool that they're back. They have that tie. It's going to be a purple car, which is really weird.
Right.
So, if you guys don't know what their color scheme is, just go to their website. But yeah, there's a lot of purples and grays and things. But
God, it's going to be weird to see Jimmy Johnson in the car other than Lowe's.
I know. And I would assume that their financial commitment probably isn't as big as what Lowe's was spending.
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably somewhat different, but no matter what, they're given enough for two full seasons.
Yeah.
My question for you is, so they're signed for 2 years, Jimmy's signed for 2 years. Is that, is 2020 going to be the retirement tour?
I think it could be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I think a lot will depend on how next year goes for old Jimmer.
Yeah, I think he's going to try to make these 2 years his run for 8. And then I think we'll see him going part-time maybe pretty soon.
Yeah,
I just think everything's lining up for 2020 to be that last run.
Yeah, I see Jimmy as the guy too that would not be like, oh, he wouldn't do the Brett Favre thing where he almost got it this year, so I'm going to go one more year. I don't see Jimmy doing that. I see Jimmy setting a time schedule, and this is it. So
I do too. And with the new crew chief coming in, it just looks like to me that they're taking one big swing at this thing, and if it doesn't work by 2020, then we could see some big changes for him.
Yeah, I think so. I don't disagree with that. I know it's got to be getting close. Jimmy doesn't need to. He doesn't have to prove anything else.
No, but he's got that. He still has the carrot.
Yeah.
He's got
yeah.
Nobody else has that carrot in front of them.
Right.
And he's got it. Yeah, and he's got a chance to make the biggest history in the sport has seen since Dale Earnhardt tied.
Yeah.
When Jimmy tied, it was a big deal. Yeah, but nobody ever thought.
Do we even have any 2-time champions left in the sport other than Jimmy Johnson?
Gosh, I'm trying to think who's out there right now. No, because there's not many champions driving right now.
Right. There's a lot of ones.
Harvick has one. Kyle Busch has one.
Part of the problem is that Jimmy's won 7 in like 10 years. So.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, he
and Tony had 2 of them in that time.
Yeah, Tony had 2. Tony had 3 total. One before Jimmy.
Right.
And that was the. I've said that on this podcast before too. That Tony winning a couple of championships in the Johnson era is one of his greatest achievements because nobody else could even get close to that. Brad's got 1. I'm trying to think. No, nobody else has 2.
I'm looking right now just to see.
Nobody else has 2. Kenseth has 1, but he's not a threat. Kurt Busch has 1. That's it, I think.
Yeah, I don't. There's Jimmy. Yeah, we look at the list here. So Kenseth won. Well, Tony won in 2002, and then Kenseth won. Kenseth is the last, or is the oldest current driver to have won the championship. So you got Kenseth in 2003, Kurt Busch 2004, then Tony, and then Jimmy, Tony, Brad, Jimmy. Yeah, that's it, man.
Yep.
Jimmy's the only multiple, so nobody else is even anywhere near where Jimmy Johnson is.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick might be able to crack that.
Yeah.
And Kyle Busch.
I think there's a pretty good chance we have a 2-time champion after this year.
We got to. Yeah, there's 3
Unle-
guys who could do it.
Unless Joey could do it.
Maybe Joey does add his name to the list.
I don't know.
That's incredible that
That'd
these
be
guys
really-
only have 1 championship.
It
Like
is.
Kyle Busch is so great, and he's got 1 championship.
Mm-hmm.
And his 1 championship came in a weird season where he busted his leg in Daytona. We didn't know what was going to happen. And he
Right.
finally got 1.
Right.
And now we're like, yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson ruined a lot of careers out there. Blame JJ.
Yeah, definitely. A couple other news items. International Speedway Corporation buys Racing Electronics. Racing Electronics
Big one,
provides.
too.
What's that?
I was just saying this is a big one too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
No,
mean
it's
to
okay.
overspeak.
Racing Electronics provides a lot of the radios for the teams, and also is pretty much the main provider of scanners, rentals, and all that stuff at the tracks. The one question I have is how it will affect SMI tracks, which also have Racing Electronics at them. I would assume there'd still be some sort of contract there, but will that be a little different now that ISC owns? I mean, it's not like MRN still comes in and does the broadcast for the Truck Series when the Truck Series is at a SMI track. So I can't imagine it would be a huge deal, but who
Yeah,
knows?
it's kind of like Apple and Microsoft. You know,
Yeah.
they sometimes they're rivals, but they also play nice together in certain circumstances. So
And Racing Electronics works with IndyCar and NHRA and a bunch of other series as well. So they're not exclusive to NASCAR by any means.
that's a good investment for ISC though.
Yeah, definitely. And
Pretty cool because they got the fan visions included in that.
yeah,
So-
that new Legend scanner that they have, I'll tell you what, when my scanner that I bought it last year is a Racing Electronics scanner. And I bought the cheapest one because at the time I'd go to the race once a year, and considering how not much more expensive this Legend is versus what I bought, and it's a fan vision and a scanner in one device. Basically, it's like an Android phone. I mean, they got some cool stuff. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it gets fans closer to the experience. The scanner always makes the racing better.
Yeah, the scanner makes the racing better, and I really like having the screen too to be able to go back and watch the replays and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they have TV screens at some of the tracks, but if you go to tracks like Michigan, the TV screens are over in the corners. There's not much for people in the center grandstand. You don't get that. You don't get that Charlotte or Texas experience with the giant screen on the backstretch. So,
Right.
James, this one you're probably jumping up and down for.
Oh yeah.
So Fanatics is leaving NASCAR at the end of the year, sort of. They're going to end the trackside trailers or trackside whatever partnership they have with NASCAR 6 years early. They were originally a 10-year deal. They were supposed to go through 2024. However, it looks like they're going to continue to manage NASCAR's e-commerce site. I think they've had that since like 2003 or something like that. But yeah, so Fanatics heading out. So we're going to get our haulers back or something, maybe?
I hope so. Yeah. Get out of here.
Yeah, I have not been impressed with Fanatics. And
I never, that was one thing. So during my time on the board at MIS, the fan
Mhm.
advisory board, that was when Fanatics was bringing in the tent for the first time, and
Yep.
I remember the entire board being optimistic that this is we're gonna miss the trailers, and everybody was kind of mad about the trailers, but we all gave it a chance,
Mhm.
and then it showed up,
Yeah.
and we all went, and boy was that had so much more potential than I think people will ever give it credit for.
Oh yeah, I mean,
But it was botched from the start.
Mhm.
It was just botched from the start.
Yep.
It was terrible.
it was too small. They were searching people's bags before they went in. I mean, the concept is neat. Instead of going to a hauler where you got to stand up at a trailer and reach up over the counter and point at stuff on a wall, you go in and try on hats and try on shirts and actually touch the product. But because of that, they had to make sure you weren't stealing stuff because you could just grab it and walk out with it. So they're searching everybody coming in and coming out to make sure you don't have anything with you. The selection was not as good, I don't think, and it was really cramped
No,
in there.
it was terrible.
It was hot as hell in there, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You had some tents, but it's pretty much you're standing out in the middle of the sun in the center like a bunch of cattle with tons of people wrapped around you. It just, it wasn't.
They had some good things that they did. Like they had a whole section for the back of the pack drivers.
Yeah.
So you could go and get a Matt DiBenedetto shirt or whatever. I mean, if you really were fans of those guys, yeah, they had something for you. And before you never could do that. That was a good thing. But boy, was I disappointed the year Tony Stewart retired, and I went to the track prepared. I was like, okay, I'm gonna stock up on my Tony Stewart retirement gear. This is it. And I kid you not, they had one T-shirt with the retirement logo on it, and I was furious.
Yeah.
And I never bought anything from those tents that I can recall. I never bought a hat, a shirt, or a diecast, anything.
I don't think I did either.
I think you know what I did? I did buy one thing, and it was when we had first realized that we were going to be parents, and I bought a Tony Stewart bib. I was like, this is for my kid, and I was so proud of myself. That was the only thing I ever spent money on at Fanatics, which is such a shame because going and buying stuff at the track, I know it's kind of, it seems like it's not that big of a thing, but it's part of the racing NASCAR experience. Always has been.
I'm kind of a hypocrite complaining about it because I really never did it. See, we camped at Juniper Hills across the street from MIS, and they had a souvenir road there as well that was basically the non-licensed people.
Yeah.
And so we would do all of our shopping there,
Yep.
and those still exist. Of course, there's a lot fewer now than it used to be. But we would get, last year's stuff or some stuff that wasn't, straight off the trailer. And I mostly bought Matchbox or the 164 diecast cars to play with as a kid. And so that's where my time was spent. I looked at stuff at the track where the track was usually like twice as much.
Yep.
So I didn't shop out of the trailers a whole lot, but it was nice to be able to go up to your team's trailer and get something. And it also was a place for drivers to do autograph sessions, things like that they had to do in different places, which a lot of that is done now in the, the other areas of, let's put it this way. In the activation area, there's plenty of extra space now.
Yeah, there's a lot of space now.
I remember MIS used to pack that out there, and
it was dirt.
Vacant.
I remember when MIS was dirt and gravel.
Yeah.
And then they repaved the whole thing, made it really nice, and now there's, here's Chevy, here's Ford, and here's a few trailers.
I'll tell you what I really like is I like that SMI has been doing that trackside stage, which we used to have trackside for was the TV show, and now they're doing it
channel.
Yeah, now they're basically doing it as like a live thing at the track. And I didn't venture out at the SMI tracks that I was at this year to check it out, but heard a lot about it and heard some of the talk with it, and it seemed like a pretty cool deal. And I know there's been talk that they've been working to bring that to some of the ISC tracks too, so that would be good.
Yeah, trackside was so much fun when they used to do it on Speed Channel.
I loved it.
I used to love that.
See, I was a broadcasting minor in college, so I geeked out over the broadcasting stuff. So,
well, obviously we like to be on this podcast, so
right.
So we do have some interest on the TV media side. But remember they used to do trackside every night from the track?
Yeah. And
it would be like after practice and stuff, and you get to come home and you'd see I just thought it was so cool. Like, I knew it was MIS week, and they'd be at the track. I'm like, I'm going to be down there tomorrow. And, good times.
Definitely.
Yeah, we'll have to do an off-season podcast on our favorite, things gone, ways gone by or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a few. I could probably talk forever about it.
Oh, I know.
Last news item, at least that I have on the list, Chevrolet announces they're updating the Camaro and Silverado and the Xfinity and Truck Series for next season, making some adjustments to those. I guess we could have put this in the Do You Care section. Do you care, James?
That Silverado looks good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. These cars are all going to have different models here and there.
Right.
I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm more excited about the Mustang coming into the Cup Series. I think that looks pretty BA.
Yeah.
I saw Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s 2019 paint scheme, and that is a good-looking car. That blue with the Mustang.
Yep,
is
I
nice.
agree.
But yeah, the Camaro, the Xfinity Camaro looks good. I think the truck looked really sharp, but I mean it's probably pretty minor stuff compared to most things. But
who cares? The thing that I question, which we haven't heard anything on, what is Xfinity Series doing for their rules package next year?
I saw a tweet from Pockrass yesterday that said that they think that the Xfinity cars are going to be harder to drive because I don't think they're doing the reduction in horsepower.
That's what I didn't think. They're not doing the air ducts either, are they?
I don't think so. That's all I know from what I saw in the tweet. And then Bromberg jumped in, which was a lot of fun. So if you guys are avid listeners of the podcast, our Eric and I enjoy Bromberg.
Yeah, so, enjoy is the word.
Yeah, I like it more than Eric does.
I thought it was funny for a while, and it's gotten old.
Yeah,
I've kept my feelings on Nick pretty quiet on this podcast, but I think I went off one time.
He did say what I kind of agreed with.
Well, I think that's what pisses me off the most about him, James, is that I do agree with some of the stuff that he says.
I know.
I just don't like the way he goes about it.
That's true. He is a troll.
Yeah.
That's okay. And not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying that in a bad way.
Right. No.
I've been known to troll from time to time myself.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I
I've done it too.
I trolled Martin Truex Jr. on Sunday, so it's okay.
Nice.
But yeah, so basically what Bromberg said that I agreed with was it's kind of backwards that the Xfinity cars would be harder to drive than the Cup cars. Shouldn't that be the other way around? And
Yeah.
I thought, well, yeah, makes sense. But you know, there was a big test in Atlanta this week, and it looks like, you know, pack racing is coming to our 1.5 mile and 2 mile tracks. So
well, Jimmy said in his quote, and I think it was retweeted by Bromberg tweeted it out. Jimmy told NASCAR and NBC, says he basically said that you can't. He says we're used to having the horsepower underneath our foot to accelerate up off the turn, and you can't even feel the acceleration now. You're at high speed, you lift half off the throttle, and then you put it back down. And you don't even feel the car pick up. So I mean, yeah, you're basically wide open.
it's like driving my pickup truck versus my wife's 4-cylinder.
Right.
You hit the gas and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so strange to me. Did you see? It's Ford Martin, right? You know Ford Martin. He used to be on Sirius XM from time to time. He's
I think that was before I started listening, or during
Yeah,
the time
he's
I
the
wasn't
son-
listening.
Kevin Harvick's old crew chief. Was it Gil Martin? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, yeah, he has a son, Ford. Well, Ford gets in trouble on Twitter all the time. And he was at the Atlanta test, and he had posted live video of the cars going around the track, and somebody must have chewed him out, because I went to click on it, and I was like, ooh, this is good stuff, and it was gone. Tweeted. So I thought, oh, Ford probably got in trouble for pushing out video from the test.
Nice.
So I don't know how we got on that topic off the 2019 Silverado and Camaro bodies, but
I don't know
anyway.
either. Any other news, James, that I'm missing?
No, I think that's it, man. I think
Jeff Gluck's
Yeah,
returning to the track this week.
that's pretty cool. Yep,
Yeah.
saw that. He's probably en route right now. I
Yeah.
saw on Instagram he's flying in. So
Yep. Yeah, he said he's on a
Good
plane
stuff.
right now. That was 42 minutes ago.
Yeah, flying high in the sky, bringing himself back to finish off the season. That's awesome.
Yep. I don't.
Talk
There's
about
not.
Brian France. We should probably. I just remembered that. But
Yeah,
there's nothing really. To
I left
say
it
there.
off the notes, but you can go ahead and go for it if you want
Well,
to.
no, he's just everything's pushed back until December.
Yeah.
He was in court. Well, he wasn't in court today.
Right.
He's hiding under the rock that he sometimes crawls out of.
Yeah. He's been hiding there for a little
That's-
while. I think
that too-
that rock's the best place for him. I think.
Do we have to edit that out of the podcast? Is
No,
that-
I'm leaving it in.
Okay, good. Okay.
Staying in, man.
Good.
I will make sure to post your address in the show notes where you guys can send letters and any lawsuits.
I don't think he's making any public appearances since August, so I think
No.
I might be okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's been around. We haven't seen anything from him other than, Packer's mentioned in the court dates, but that's it. So.
No, he's doing just fine, by the way.
All right, so it is the AAA Texas 500 at Texas Motor Speedway. James, we got a race tonight. The Truck Series are racing tonight.
Yeah.
It sounds like they tore up a bunch of Xfinity cars in practice today. So Texas is going to be a good, fun weekend this weekend.
Yep. Denny Hamlin made a comment of how he's scared for Morgan Shepherd's health.
Oh, jeez.
Did you see that? Oh, that's
I didn't,
another one.
I didn't see the comment. I saw Shepard crashed in practice.
Yeah, Shepard crashed really hard, and Denny Hamlin said it's not. I'm genuinely concerned because it's different crashing as at 77 than it is in your 20s, 30s, and 40s.
I don't know that I disagree with Denny Hamlin.
I don't think I do either, but I just thought
mean,
it was kind of interesting that he said that.
I mean, Shepard's in pretty good shape for the age that he is, but
That's right.
man, I don't know. It's
think-
scary.
Yeah, that was good.
All right, so we head to Texas this weekend, and I have to get my pick ready here because I don't have a clue who I'm picking. So let me figure this out. So we got all three series in action this weekend. We got the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. Oh, there we go. Just couldn't find the right link. Come on, Racing Reference. You got to have this ready beforehand, right?
I'm ready to roll.
All right, if you're ready to roll, take the first pick. I know it's mine, but take it.
No, I can't take your first pick.
Ah, come on. You can do it.
Okay, I'll
mind.
do it.
I don't mind.
I want to pick Kevin Harvick, but I'm going to probably steal your pick. I'm going to go Chase Elliott.
I actually wasn't going to pick Chase.
Oh, okay, so that's good. I feel better then.
You know what? I'm going to pick. I'll tell you what. This guy has imploded here a bunch of times, but he's also won here 3 times. So I'm going to go Kyle Busch.
Yep, he is very good. He's got the best driver rating at Texas amongst the playoff drivers, and it's not even close.
Yeah, he either does something stupid here or he wins.
Yeah, he is by far the best driver at Texas among this group, statistical wise.
Right. I will note that neither of us picked the driver who's won 7 times at Texas Motor Speedway, Jimmy Johnson.
Well, he's won 7 times at every racetrack. Kevin Harvick, defending winner of the fall race, and he's got 2 consecutive wins, right? He won the spring race there too.
I believe so.
Well, he's coming off 2 straight Texas wins. So his driver rating is looking pretty good too. He's at a 94.4. He's tied basically with Martin Truex Jr., who does not have a win at Texas.
Okay.
And Chase Elliott is the next one in line. He also does not have a win at Texas, but he has finished out of the top 10 only once. His average finish is 7.4.
There you go. James with all the info.
With the stats.
I
bring the stats.
All right. I'm going to take the dark horse pick first since you picked the main pick first. I'm going to go. It's potentially his last Cup Series race ever, apparently.
Yeah.
So I'm going Trevor Bayne.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No pressure.
Can I pick Eric Almirola? Because he's really bad. No, I'm just joking. I'm not going to pick him.
I was almost going to let you.
No, I can't do that. It's not good. Gosh, who would I pick?
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the final 8 can be a dark horse.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Let's go a little bit off the grid. William Byron, he's due to run good. I think with Chase Elliott running a little bit better, hope maybe that would transition to William Byron.
I'd love to see Byron get a win before the season's out.
Yeah, he just hasn't been. I mean, he's had.
It's just not been a great year. It's not been a bad year, but it's not been a great year.
But none of his Hendrick teammates have done really anything other than Chase either. So
that's true.
He's been okay. It's just a rookie. Your rookies are going to struggle.
Yep. And it just goes to show you how tough this series is.
Yep. Yeah, he's a world beater in anything he's driven, and I expect him to get there at some point.
Oh yeah.
He'll get there.
I expect him to get some wins and maybe a championship. Hard to say. It's not as easy to predict as the other series, but
that's right.
A lot of good guys in this series, but
he'll be fine.
All right, James, anything else that we need to hit on?
No, I think we are, I think we're good.
All right. How can they find you on social media if they want to check out what you're tweeting during the race?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at T Super Speedway on Twitter. I will not be tweeting during the race this weekend because I will be at hockey, so I have to watch it delayed. Might watch a truck race tonight though. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you being delayed on Sunday really actually got to me for the first time because I was so excited about those last 10 laps, and I was texting you. All I texted you was
it was kind of cool because I knew something exciting was going to happen.
I know, and I usually don't do that, but I actually got really excited for once. I'm like, I got to see if Eric's actually watching.
Well, there was no way I could have predicted what was going to happen based on what you said. So
I know. Well, I kept it vague.
That's the way to do it.
All I said was you replied, and all I said was, "Oh boy." So I kept.
As soon as you said "Oh boy," I shut my phone off because I didn't want anybody else to text me.
Right.
That's what usually happens. So.
So I gave you the warning then, so that's good.
There you go. So you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway, facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast on there. Show notes, links to the articles that we've discussed, and some of the stories from races that I covered earlier this season. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. If you like what we're doing and you want to become a part of it, become a patron at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. James, we only got about an hour, I think, before the Truck Series race starts, unless it's 8:30 Texas time. I don't know. Could be Texas time. Anyway, we're going to head on out of here. Talk to you guys next week. We'll talk about Texas, and we will preview Phoenix. Right? Phoenix already?
Yeah, we got just a couple to go.
Dang.
We're almost done.
That
almost
is
to the
crazy.
off-season.
Season's almost done. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Until then, let's go racing.